They had faced existential threats before. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. The emergency council session was the most crowded in history. Every species sent representatives. Everyone had heard the reports. The Devourers were awake. Prime Veltharan stood before the assembled members. His crystalline form seemed dimmer than usual, as if the weight of the news had physically drained him. 3 Outer Rim colonies have been destroyed, he announced. Complete destruction. No survivors. The Devourers are heading toward inhabited space. The chamber filled with panicked voices. Some species immediately declared they would evacuate their border colonies. Others talked about fleeing to distant galaxies. Fear was spreading like a disease. Marshal Jinho sat in the human section, listening carefully. He was an old soldier with scars on his face and hands. He had fought in Earth's unification wars back when humans still killed each other. He knew war better than anyone in the chamber. "What's the council's plan?" he asked calmly. Veltharan looked at the human marshal. "The same as before. We evacuate colonies in the Devourer path. We fight delaying actions to buy time. We retreat sector by sector until they run out of resources and go dormant again. How long will that take? Last time it took 2 centuries. We lost 40% of all species." Jinho stood up. "That's not a plan. That's slow surrender." The chamber went quiet. Everyone turned to look at the human. "With respect, Marshal," Veltharan said carefully, "you don't understand what we face. The Devourers are not like your raiders or pirates. They're a machine intelligence that has consumed thousands of civilizations. They learn from every battle. They adapt to every weapon. They cannot be reasoned with or stopped, only outlasted." "Everything can be stopped," Jinho replied. "You just need the right strategy. We've fought them before. 2,000 years ago, this council barely survived. What makes you think you know better?" Jinho walked to the center of the chamber. "You survived because you ran. You treated the Devourers like a natural disaster, something to endure. But they're not a disaster. They're an enemy. And enemies can be defeated." Counselor Rinthor, who had been quiet since his failed test of humanity, spoke up. "You're suggesting we attack them?" "That's suicide, maybe," Jinho agreed. "But dying while retreating is also suicide. Just slower. At least my way, we go down fighting." Lieutenant Yunji, a young tactical officer, stepped forward with a datapad. "We've analyzed the historical records of the previous Devourer conflict. We found patterns." She projected images into the air. "Battle maps, fleet movements, attack sequences. The Devourers are machines," she explained. "They follow optimal strategies. They calculate the best path, the most efficient attack, the logical response to every threat. This makes them predictable." "Predictable?" A council member laughed bitterly. "They destroyed everything in their path." "Because you fought them logically," Yunji continued. "You used optimal defense positions. You retreated at mathematically calculated moments. You did exactly what any rational species would do. So they knew exactly how to beat you." "And humans will do differently?" Veltharan asked. Jinho smiled grimly. "Humans don't fight logically. We fight emotionally. We do things that make no tactical sense but work anyway. We're unpredictable because we're not always rational. And that's our advantage." The council debated for hours. Most species wanted to follow the traditional plan, evacuate and retreat. But the allied species, the Telvanni, Narn, Qual, and Bryn, stood with humanity. "We trust the humans," Counselor Zinari declared. "They saved us when they didn't have to. If they say they can fight, we believe them." Finally, Veltharan made a decision. "Very well. Humanity will lead the military response. But understand this, Marshal Jinho, if you fail, billions will die." Jinho nodded. "I understand. But if we don't try, billions will die anyway. At least this way we die on our feet." Humanity mobilized like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Every shipyard went to maximum production. Every factory converted to making weapons. Every human with military training was called up. Even civilians trained in combat basics. Dr. Jiwan observed this transformation with concern. She called Ambassador Hyunwoo. "We're militarizing completely," she said. "The other species are frightened. They see us becoming an army." "We are becoming an army," Hyunwoo replied quietly. "Because we need to be. But once the war is over, we'll go back to being people. That's what humans do. We fight when we must, then return to peace. Are you sure? History shows that militarized societies sometimes can't stop being military. Earth's history also shows that we can. We've done it before. We'll do it again." He smiled sadly. "Besides, we're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting for our friends." That makes all the difference. The Devourers advanced through the outer rim like a mechanical tide. Each battle followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, complete destruction, and harvesting of all resources. Then they encountered Marshal Jinho's first defensive line at the Terminus Gate. The Devourers' sensors detected the human fleet. Thousands of ships in perfect defensive formation. According to their calculations, this would be a standard delaying action. The humans would fight for a few hours, then retreat. Standard procedure. They were wrong. Jinho launched his attack immediately. No warning. No defensive posture. Just pure aggression. The Devourers had to recalculate. This wasn't standard behavior. Then things got stranger. The human ships didn't maintain formation. They split up, regrouped, split again. Some ships charged forward while others held back. There was no pattern the Devourers could predict. "Sir, we're losing ships," Commander Taeyang reported from the flagship. "I know," Jinho said calmly. "But we're learning. Every minute we fight, we learn more about how they adapt. Keep changing tactics." Lieutenant Yunji was watching the Devourer responses carefully. "They're adapting to our weapons, but slowly. They expect us to use the same weapons consistently. We need to keep switching." Sung Min, who led the weapons division, had prepared for this, launching Wave 2. Different weapons, different tactics. The Devourers adapted to human railguns, so humans switched to missiles. When the Devourers adapted to missiles, humans used laser weapons. When lasers became ineffective, humans used kinetic bombardment. "They're machines," Sung Min explained. "They learn sequentially. But we can change faster than they can adapt. We just need to stay unpredictable." The Battle of Terminus Gate lasted 3 days, the longest single battle in Council history. The Devourers kept expecting the humans to retreat. The humans kept fighting. Finally, the Devourers withdrew, not because they were defeated, but because their calculations showed this battle was costing more resources than they would gain. It was the first time in recorded history that the Devourers retreated. The galaxy watched in shock. "They did it," Daehyun whispered, watching the battle recordings. They actually did it, but Jinho knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers would adapt. They would learn from this battle. The next fight would be harder. "We need to keep them off balance," he told his staff. "Every battle needs to be different. Different tactics, different strategies, different weapons. We can't let them figure us out." Over the next year, humanity fought 17 major battles against the Devourers. They won some, they lost others. But they never retreated more than necessary, and they never fought the same way twice. The other Council species began contributing. The Telvanni provided supplies. The Narn used their trade networks to move resources quickly. The Qual developed new technologies. The Bryn created art that kept morale high. But it was humans who did most of the fighting. And it was humans who paid the highest price. Captain Misun died defending a Narn colony. She rammed her damaged ship into a Devourer mothership, destroying both. Her last words were, "Protect the civilians." Young Ho and his entire special operations team were lost while sabotaging a Devourer manufacturing facility. They succeeded in their mission but couldn't escape. Thousands of other humans died, ships destroyed, colonies lost, families torn apart, but the humans kept fighting. The witness appeared to Prime Veltharan during the darkest part of the war. The ancient entity materialized in the Prime's private chambers. "You doubted me," the witness said. "You thought I exaggerated about humanity." Veltharan looked at the entity with tired eyes. "I was wrong. I admit it freely. But I don't understand. Why are they doing this? They lose ships. They lose people. They could retreat to their own space and be safe. Why do they keep fighting?" "Because they care," the witness replied simply. "You asked them to lead the defense. They took that responsibility seriously. And humans don't abandon responsibilities. They don't abandon friends. But the cost is worth it to them. This is what I tried to explain. Humans measure success differently than you. They don't calculate optimal outcomes or acceptable losses. They ask simpler questions. Did we protect our friends? Did we fight with honor? Did we do everything we possibly could? That's not logical." "No," the witness agreed. "It's not logical. It's human. And in this case, being human is exactly what the galaxy needs." The turning point came at the Battle of Deep Core. The Devourers made a major push toward the heavily populated center of the galaxy. If they broke through, billions would die. Marshal Jin Ho gathered every available ship. Human vessels, allied species, even some sea. 6 months passed since the Coalition's failed test. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace. Humans were no longer mocked, but they weren't fully accepted either. Fear and respect mixed together in how other species viewed them. Ambassador Haywan had a different job than the other human diplomats. While they handled formal meetings and treaties, she worked on something more important: making actual friends. She was younger than Hyunwoo, with warm eyes and an easy smile. She spent her days visiting different species, learning their cultures, sharing meals, and listening to their concerns. She didn't talk about military power or strategic advantage. She talked about music, art, family, and dreams. Politics is just people, she often said, and people respond to genuine kindness. One species caught her attention, the Telvanni. They were small, insect-like creatures with gentle personalities. Their homeworld was beautiful but poorly defended. Larger species often bullied them, taking their resources and ignoring their protests. Counselor Zinari represented the Telvanni. He was old for his species, with fading colors on his shell. He had spent decades watching his people be pushed around, unable to protect them. Haywan met him in a quiet garden outside the council chambers. She brought tea from Earth and asked about his family. "Why do you care?" Zinari asked suspiciously. "What does mighty humanity want from small Telvanni?" "Nothing," Haywan said simply. "I just wanted to know about you, about your people, about what makes you happy." They talked for hours. Zinari spoke about his grandchildren, his home planet's beautiful crystal forests, and his fears for his people's future. Haywan listened carefully, asking questions and sharing her own stories about Earth. "You're different from what I expected," Zinari admitted. "The reports say humans are dangerous warriors." "We can be," Haywan agreed. "But we're also poets and parents and people who like to sit in gardens drinking tea. Being good at fighting doesn't mean that's all we are." A week later, raiders attacked a Telvanni colony. It was a farming world with no military defenses. The attackers were from the Korthan Syndicate, pirates who knew the Telvanni couldn't fight back. The Telvanni government sent desperate messages to the council, begging for help. But help would take days to arrive. The raiders would be gone by then, along with thousands of Telvanni civilians taken as slaves. Admiral Sang-hoon commanded the human battle group in that sector. He was a veteran officer with a reputation for following orders precisely. When he received the Telvanni distress call, he immediately changed course. "Sir," his first officer said, "we don't have authorization. The Telvanni aren't our allies. The council hasn't requested our assistance." Sang-hoon looked at the young officer. "Do we need permission to do what's right?" "But the regulations say that we're obligated to respond to distress calls from sentient beings in danger." "The Telvanni are sentient. They're in danger. We're responding." He raised his voice to address the bridge crew. "Battle stations. Maximum speed. We're going to save those people." The human fleet arrived at the colony in 3 hours. The raiders were in the process of loading captured Telvanni onto their ships. They had 6 heavy cruisers, well-armed and experienced. Sang-hoon's flagship moved between the raiders and the colony. He opened a channel to the pirate commander. "You are ordered to release your prisoners and leave immediately." The pirate commander laughed. "And who's going to make us?" "You have 1 battle group. We have 6 cruisers." "Do the math, human." "I have done the math," Sang-hoon replied calmly. "Here's my equation. You have 6 ships. I have weapons designed to kill things much more dangerous than you. You have about 30 seconds to leave before I test them." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Sang-hoon's voice dropped. "We're humans. We don't bluff about protecting innocent people." 20 seconds. The pirate commander checked his intel reports about humans. He saw the battle recordings from Captain Misun's fight. He saw General Kyung-soo's demonstration. He saw species after species reporting that humans were unpredictable and dangerous. 10 seconds, Sang-hoon said. The raiders ran. They dropped the captured Telvanni and jumped away to safety. They weren't going to die testing whether humans were serious about protecting others. Counselor Zinari couldn't believe it when he heard the news. He called Ambassador Haywan immediately. "Your admiral saved my people," he said, his voice trembling. "But why? We have no treaty, no alliance, no agreement. You gained nothing by helping us." Haywan smiled gently. "We gained something very important. We gained friends. I don't understand. You risked your ships and your people for us." What if the raiders had fought? What if you lost? Then we would have lost protecting people who needed help. That's not a bad way to lose. She leaned forward. Counselor, let me tell you about humans. We're not perfect. We've done terrible things in our history. But we learned one important lesson. The strong should protect the weak. Not because it's profitable. Not because it's strategic. But because it's right. Zinari was quiet for a long moment. Your species is very strange. Yes, Haywan agreed. We are. But I hope we're the good kind of strange. Dr. Bora presented a paper to the council about human psychology. She was a cultural specialist who had spent years studying how humans thought differently from other species. Most species in the council evolved as prey or as solitary hunters, she explained. Humans evolved as pack-hunting omnivores. This is very rare in the galaxy. It means we have instincts that other species find confusing. She showed brain scans and behavioral studies. Humans form emotional bonds very easily. We pack bond with almost anything, other humans, animals, even inanimate objects. Once we decide something is part of our pack, we protect it absolutely. This is why humans are so loyal, she continued. It's not a choice or a philosophy. It's instinct. When a human says, you're my friend, they mean you're part of my pack and I'll die before I let anything hurt you. The council members listened with fascination. This explained so much about human behavior that had seemed irrational before. There's more, Bora said. Humans are also highly empathetic. We instinctively understand suffering. When we see others in pain, we feel it too. This makes us both compassionate and dangerous. We'll help strangers because we imagine their suffering, but we'll also destroy anyone who deliberately causes suffering to those we care about. Prime Velthurin asked, So humans are naturally protective? More than that, Bora replied. We're aggressively protective. We don't just defend our pack. We hunt threats to our pack. Throughout human history, the worst atrocities were committed not for conquest or greed, but in defense of loved ones. A human protecting their family is the most dangerous creature in the universe. Within a year, everything changed. The Telvanni formally requested an alliance with humanity. They were the first species to do so not out of fear, but out of genuine friendship. 3 more species followed. The Narn, who were traders tired of being robbed by pirates. The Qual, who were scientists interested in human adaptability. The Bryn, who were artists fascinated by human creativity. Each alliance was different, but they all had one thing in common. Humans treated their allies as equals. Not as subjects, not as resources. As partners and friends, Haywan hosted a gathering in the human embassy. Representatives from all the allied species came, along with some curious observers from the council. Counselor Zinari stood to make a speech. A year ago, I feared humans. 6 months ago, I was grateful to them. Today, I call them family. And I mean that literally. In Telvanni culture, we adopt those who protect us as blood relatives. Humanity has been adopted. You are Telvanni now, whether you like it or not. The room filled with laughter and cheers. Haywan had tears in her eyes. Admiral Sanghoon attended the gathering in his dress uniform. A young Telvanni child approached him shyly. You saved my mother, the child said in broken English. Thank you. Sanghoon knelt down to the child's level. You're welcome. That's what friends do. Are we really friends? The child asked. Even though I'm small and you're big? Especially because you're small, Sanghoon said gently. Humans believe the strong should protect the small. It's one of our most important rules. Commander Taiyang watched from across the room. He stood next to Ambassador Hyunwoo. We've changed the galaxy, Taiyang said. Not through war, through friendship. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. And this is only the beginning. Every species that joins us makes us stronger. Not militarily, but in ways that matter more. Far away in the darkest reaches of space, something ancient stirred. The Devourers, a machine intelligence that had slept for millennia, began to wake. They had consumed civilizations before. They would consume again, but this time the galaxy had something it didn't have before. This time the galaxy had humans, and humans had friends they would die to protect. Prime Velthurin received the first reports of Devourer activity. He sat in his office reading the intelligence with growing dread. The last time the Devourers attacked, the galaxy barely survived. 40% of all known species were destroyed. He called an emergency council session. As members gathered, he saw Ambassador Hyunwoo enter with his delegation. The humans looked calm, almost relaxed. You don't know what's coming, Velthurin thought. You can't possibly understand the threat we face, but he was wrong. The humans did understand. You do not want humans as your enemies, but as your friends? He smiled slightly. There not everyone believed Daehyun's report. Despite the battle recordings and the historical data, some council members refused to accept that humans were truly dangerous. They saw only a young species with primitive technology. They couldn't imagine being threatened by such newcomers. Counselor Rinthor of the Karathi led this group. He was a proud warrior who had commanded fleets for decades. The defeat of the Karathi raiders embarrassed him. He convinced himself that his people had simply been unlucky. One battle proves nothing, he told his allies. We need a proper test. 5 species joined his secret coalition. They developed a plan. They would create a crisis in disputed space, far from council oversight. They would use unmarked ships to attack both human and alien vessels. Then they would blame humanity for the violence. Once we prove they're aggressive, Rinthor explained, the council will have to restrict them. We'll have legal authority to contain them in their system. The coalition didn't know that General Kyung-soo was already watching them. The general was Earth's chief military strategist. He had gray hair, tired eyes, and a mind that worked like a machine. He saw patterns others missed. They're planning something, he told his staff. Coalition ships are moving into the border regions. Their communications are encrypted. Their fleet positions make no strategic sense unless they're planning to stage an incident. Commander Tae Yang slammed his fist on the table. Let them come. We'll destroy them. No, Kyung-soo said calmly. That's what they want. They want us to look aggressive. We need to be smarter. Dr. Soo-jin, a scientist who specialized in strategy, nodded. We should show them what we can do without actually doing it. Demonstrate capability without destruction. Ambassador Hyun-woo joined the meeting through a video link. The council is watching. Whatever we do, it needs to send a clear message but maintain our reputation. Kyung-soo smiled slightly. I have an idea. 2 weeks later, the coalition put their plan into action. Unmarked ships attacked a human cargo vessel near the border. They expected the humans to either run or fight back aggressively. Either response would serve the coalition's purposes. Instead, the cargo ship did something unexpected. It broadcast a message on all frequencies. We know who you are. We know what you're planning. This is your only warning. The coalition ships ignored the message and continued their attack. The cargo ship's shields held long enough for it to jump away to safety. The coalition commander smiled. Phase 1 was complete. Then things started going wrong. The coalition's command ship, safely hidden in a nearby asteroid field, suddenly lost power. Every system went dark. Lights, shields, weapons, life support, everything stopped working. For exactly 60 seconds, the crew floated in darkness and silence. When the power came back on, there was a message on every screen. Hello, we've been here for 3 weeks. Panic spread through the coalition fleet. How did they get into our systems? Someone shouted. We're using military-grade encryption. Check for boarding parties. Another voice called, but there were no boarding parties. No ships had approached. No one had seen anything unusual. Yet somehow humans had infiltrated their most secure systems. Another ship lost power. Then another. Then all 6 ships in the coalition fleet went dark for exactly 60 seconds. When the lights came back on, each ship found files on their computers. Battle plans, communication logs, secret agreements. Everything the coalition had planned was now in human hands. The final message appeared. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Consider this mercy. Counselor Rinthor stared at his screens in disbelief. How did they do this? The answer came an hour later when General Kyung-soo's face appeared on a secure channel. He looked calm and professional. Almost bored, Counselor Rinthor, he said. We need to talk. You violated our systems. Rinthor shouted. You hacked military vessels. This is an act of war, is it? Kyung-soo raised an eyebrow. You attacked our cargo ship with unmarked vessels. You planned to frame us for violence we didn't commit. You formed a secret coalition to undermine council law, and you think we're the ones who committed an act of war? You have no proof of our involvement. Kyung-soo smiled. We have all the proof. Your communications, your fleet movements, your secret meetings. We've been watching you since the beginning. We knew about your plan before you even finished making it. Rinthor felt cold fear creeping through him. That's impossible. Our security is perfect. Your security is designed to stop people like you. Kyung-soo said. Honorable warriors who fight openly. But humans didn't evolve that way. We evolved in tribes where deception meant survival. We learned to lie, to manipulate, to infiltrate. It's in our DNA. He leaned forward. 3 weeks ago, a human team visited every ship in your fleet. They walked right past your guards. They smiled. They joked. They seemed harmless. Your security never saw them as threats because we've evolved to hide our intentions. While your species developed honor codes and warrior traditions, my species was perfecting the art of looking friendly while planning your destruction. Impossible, Rinthor whispered. Really? Then explain how we got into your command ship. Explain how we accessed your encrypted files. Explain how we planted a virus in every single one of your vessels without anyone noticing. Kyung-soo's voice grew colder. You thought you were testing us. You were wrong. We were testing you, and you failed. The screen changed to show Young-ho, the soldier who had led the infiltration team. He was young, with an ordinary face and a quiet smile. He looked completely harmless. This is the man who walked onto your command ship, Kyung-soo said. He carried enough explosives to cripple your entire fleet. Your guards chatted with him about the weather. He complimented their uniforms. They never suspected a thing. Young-ho waved at the camera, still smiling. We could have destroyed you at any time, Kyung-soo continued. We could have killed every person in your coalition. We could have made it look like an accident. But we didn't. Do you know why? Rinthor couldn't speak. Because we're not monsters. We're not killers. We're not conquerors. Kyung-soo's voice was soft but firm. We're humans, and humans prefer friends to enemies. We gave you a warning instead of a funeral. That's the difference between us and you. But make no mistake, counselor. This was mercy, not weakness. If you try this again, if any species tries to harm us or frame us or restrict us, we won't show mercy twice. We'll show you what humans are really capable of. And trust me, you don't want to see that. The transmission ended. Ambassador Hyun-woo met with Prime Veltharan privately that evening. The council leader looked older than before, tired and worried. Your General Kyung-soo's demonstration was very effective, Veltharan said. The coalition has withdrawn their complaints. Councillor Rinthor has requested a leave of absence. We didn't want conflict, Hyun-woo said. We just wanted respect. You have it now. Perhaps more than you wanted. Veltharan looked at the human ambassador. But I must ask, your general said you could have destroyed the coalition. Was he exaggerating? Hyun-woo was quiet for a moment. What do you think? I think I don't know. And that terrifies me. Good, Hyun-woo said softly. Fear is honest. It's better than contempt. But it's not what we want from you. What do you want? Friendship, partnership, a chance to prove that we can contribute to this council as equals, not threats. Hyun-woo smiled sadly. We've spent our entire history fighting. We're tired of it. We want something better. Veltharan nodded slowly. I believe you. But I must be honest. Many council members are frightened now. They see humans as unpredictable and dangerous. They're not wrong, Hyun-woo admitted. We are dangerous. Every human knows that. We grew up on a planet that tried to kill us. We survived by becoming apex predators. But here's the thing about humans, we choose our targets carefully. We're dangerous to our enemies. But to our friends, he smiled, we would die to protect them. That's what Dae-hyun said in his report. Then believe him. Because it's true. The same instinct that makes us dangerous makes us loyal. We don't do anything halfway. When we hate completely. When we love absolutely. When we make friends, we keep them forever. Veltharan stood up. I want to believe you. Then do, Hyun-woo said. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Not as warriors or infiltrators or threats, as friends. The Prime looked at him for a long moment. Very well. But understand this, Ambassador. The galaxy is watching. Your next actions will determine how you're remembered, as conquerors or as allies. Choose wisely, Hyun-woo bowed. We will. As he left the chamber, Commander Taeyang was waiting for him. How did it go? We've made our point, Hyun-woo said. Now we need to be careful. We showed them we're dangerous. Next we need to show them we're trustworthy. Can we do both? Hyun-woo smiled. We're human. We can do anything if we try hard enough. Far away in human space, General Kyung-soo reviewed the operation. Young-ho and his team stood at attention. You did well, the general said. You showed them what we can do without actually hurting anyone. That's the hardest kind of operation. Young-ho smiled his quiet smile. It was easy, sir. They never suspected us because they don't understand deception. They think honor means being obvious. We know honor means protecting your people by any means necessary. 3 weeks had passed since the witness appeared before the council. The galaxy was still talking about it. Some believed the ancient entity. Others thought it was exaggerating. Prime Veltheron decided the only way to know the truth was to study humanity properly. He assigned Daehyun, an old scholar from the Velgun species, to lead the research. Daehyun had spent his long life studying civilizations. He had written books about hundreds of species. He thought he knew everything about how intelligent life developed. This will be simple, Daehyun told his research team. We will look at Earth's history, understand their evolution, and write a proper report. Then we can prove this witness was simply being dramatic. His team gathered every piece of information they could find about Earth. They studied old radio signals that humans had sent into space. They examined the data from early probe scans of Earth. They analyzed everything. What they found confused them at first. The planet's climate is unstable, one researcher said. It swings between extreme cold and extreme heat every few thousand years. Look at these predators, said another. Cave bears, saber-toothed cats, wolves that hunted in packs. How did humans survive? Daehyun studied the data himself. The more he read, the more troubled he became. Earth was not a kind world. It was a planet that constantly tried to kill everything on it. He read about the ice ages. Humans had survived by learning to make fire, create clothing, and build shelters. When giant animals hunted them, humans learned to hunt together with spears and traps. When disease swept through their populations, the survivors became resistant. They should have gone extinct, Daehyun muttered. Multiple times, his assistant looked up. But they didn't. Instead, they spread across the entire planet. They crossed frozen land bridges. They sailed across oceans in primitive boats. They climbed mountains just to see what was on the other side. Daehyun found something else disturbing. Human history was filled with war. They fought over territory, resources, ideas, and sometimes for no clear reason at all. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years. This is normal, his assistant said. Many species have wars. Not like this, Daehyun replied. Look at these battles. Look at these strategies. They didn't just fight. They studied war like it was a science. They wrote books about it. They had schools that taught nothing but how to fight better. While Daehyun studied in his research center, something was happening in a distant part of space. A group of Karathi raiders had decided to test humanity. They thought the witness was lying. They wanted to prove humans were as weak as they looked. They chose a small human colony on a planet called New Sol. Only 50,000 humans lived there, with a single defense frigate in orbit. The Karathi sent 3 warships. They were bigger, faster, and had more weapons. Captain Mi-sun commanded the human frigate. She was a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. When her sensors detected the Karathi ships approaching, she immediately understood what was happening. They're here to test us, she told her crew. They want to see if we'll run. Her first officer looked worried. Captain, we're outnumbered. We should call for backup. Mi-sun shook her head. Backup is 3 days away. Those raiders will attack the colony before help arrives. We fight now. But Captain, I know the odds, Mi-sun said quietly. But those are our people down there. We don't abandon family. The Karathi ships moved into attack position. Their commander sent a message. Surrender your ship and the colony. We will treat you well as our servants. Mi-sun's response was simple. No. The battle began. The Karathi expected it to be quick. Their ships were stronger. Their weapons were better. But something went wrong immediately. The human ship didn't fight the way they expected. It moved erratically, making it hard to target. It used the planet's gravity to slingshot around, gaining speed without using fuel. When the Karathi ships tried to surround it, Mi-sun flew her frigate straight at them. She's insane, the Karathi commander shouted. She's going to ram us. At the last second, Mi-sun spun her ship and fired all weapons at point-blank range. One Karathi ship's shields collapsed. Before they could recover, Mi-sun did something no one expected. She opened her ship's hangar and launched boarding pods. They're boarding us. The Karathi crew panicked. That's impossible. They're outnumbered. They're losing. But the human Marines didn't care about odds. They cut through the Karathi hull and fought their way inside. When the Karathi shot at them, the humans used their own damaged suits as shields. When they ran out of ammunition, they picked up Karathi weapons. When those ran out, they fought hand to hand. One Karathi soldier later reported, "They didn't stop. We shot one human 3 times and he kept coming. He was bleeding, possibly dying, and he was smiling. Smiling. What kind of creature smiles when they're dying?" The Karathi ships retreated. They had won nothing and lost one ship completely. Their report sent shockwaves through the species that doubted the witness. Dae-hyun received the battle recordings. He watched them over and over, unable to believe what he saw. He called Ambassador Hyunwoo and Dr. Ji-won to his research center. "I need you to explain something," Dae-hyun said. "I watched the battle. Your captain was losing. Her ship was damaged. Her crew was injured. Why didn't she retreat?" Hyunwoo looked at the old scholar calmly. "Because her people were down on that planet. But she could have escaped. She could have saved herself and called for help." Dr. Ji-won spoke up. "You don't understand. It's not in our nature to abandon others. We would rather die fighting than live knowing we ran away." Dae-hyun shook his head. "That's not logical. Survival is the most basic instinct." "For you, maybe," Ji-won said. "But humans evolved in tribes. We survived because we protected each other. A human alone dies quickly. Humans together can survive anything. We didn't evolve to be the fastest or the strongest. We evolved to be the most loyal." She pulled up data on her tablet. "Do you know what persistence hunting is?" Tae-hyun shook his head. "It's how early humans hunted. We couldn't run as fast as deer or antelope, but we could run longer. We would follow an animal for hours, sometimes days, until it collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't give up. We never gave up. That's what made us apex predators." "That's insane," Dae-hyun whispered. "Maybe," Hyunwoo said, "but it worked. We spread across Earth, we survived ice ages. We climbed mountains and crossed oceans. And we did it all because we refused to quit." Dae-hyun looked at his research again. He found more disturbing facts. Humans had something called adrenaline that made them stronger during danger. They had the ability to ignore pain when necessary. They could function without sleep for days if they had to. "You're built for crisis," he said slowly. "Your entire species is designed to survive impossible situations." "Yes," Ji-won agreed. "Earth taught us that comfort is temporary. Danger is constant, so we evolved to thrive in chaos." Dae-hyun found something else in human culture. Every human civilization, no matter where they lived or when they existed, had stories about heroes. Not heroes who won easily, but heroes who fought impossible battles and refused to give up even when defeat was certain. "The Spartans at Thermopylae," he read aloud. 300 soldiers against hundreds of thousands. They knew they would die. They fought anyway. "The siege of Stalingrad," he continued. "Both sides fought in frozen ruins for months. Millions died. Neither side retreated. The Alamo, Rorke's Drift, the Battle of Shiroyama." He looked up at the humans. "You celebrate last stands. You write songs about people who died fighting." Why, Hyunwoo thought for a moment. "Because how you die matters. Giving up means nothing you did mattered. Fighting to the end means something. It means you refuse to accept defeat. It means you were brave. And bravery is what makes us human." Dae-hyun worked on his report for 2 more weeks. The more he learned, the more disturbed he became. He discovered that humans played games about war. They studied ancient battles for fun. Children grew up learning about famous generals and warriors. When he finally presented his report to the council, his hands were shaking. "The witness was correct," he said. "Humans are dangerous. Not because they're stronger or smarter. They're dangerous because they don't fear death the way we do. They fear failure. They fear dishonor. They fear letting others down. But death?" He paused. "They've made peace with death. They've been dying since they climbed down from trees and walked on 2 legs. Every human culture has the same idea," he continued, "that how you live matters less than how you die. That dying well is better than living poorly. I don't think they're suicidal. I think they genuinely believe some things are worth dying for." He looked around the chamber at the various species. "We evolved on worlds that wanted us to live. We developed cultures based on survival and safety. Humans evolved on a world that wanted them dead. They developed cultures based on defiance and courage. The witness asked us not to provoke them. I understand why now. It's not that they'll destroy us. It's that they won't stop trying until they do. They don't know how to quit. It's not in their psychology." The council chamber was silent. Prime Veltharan looked at the report with troubled eyes. "So what do you recommend?" he asked. Daehyun closed his datapad. I recommend we become their friends. Because I've studied their history and I know one thing for certain. The giant crystal chamber floated in the darkness of space. Inside, representatives from 847 different alien species sat in their designated seats. Some had multiple arms, others had wings, and many looked nothing like anything found on Earth. They all waited for the same thing, to see the new species that wanted to join the Galactic Council. Ambassador. Hyunwoo stood at the entrance with his small team. He wore a simple black suit that seemed plain compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the aliens around him. Behind him stood Dr. Jiwon, a scientist who specialized in studying alien cultures. She held a tablet and watched everything with careful eyes. Commander Taeyang, a military officer with gray hair and a stern face, stood ready to protect them both. They walked forward into the chamber. Hyunwoo could feel hundreds of eyes watching them. Some aliens whispered to each other. Others laughed quietly. The humans looked so small and ordinary compared to the powerful beings in the room. Prime Veltharan, the leader of the council, raised 4 of his 6 crystalline arms. The chamber fell silent. His voice echoed through the space. We gathered today to consider Earth's request to join our council. Let us hear what humanity has to say. Hyunwoo stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, we come in peace. We seek friendship and knowledge. We hope to learn from you and share what we know. A large reptilian creature stood up from his seat. His scales were red and black. Friendship? You barely know how to travel between stars. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Why should we treat you as equals? Other voices joined in. A blue insect-like alien clicked her mandibles. Humans are children playing with toys they don't understand. They should be supervised, confined to their little solar system, added another voice from the back. For their own safety, of course. Dr. Jiwon wrote down every insult, every suggestion. Her face remained calm, but her hand gripped the tablet tightly. Commander Taeyang's jaw clenched. His hand moved slightly toward his sidearm before he stopped himself. Hyunwoo kept his voice steady. We may be young compared to your civilizations, but we have much to offer. We are quick learners. We adapt easily. We adapt? The red reptilian laughed. You think adaptation matters? We have science. We have order. We have thousands of years of peaceful civilization. What do you have? Before Hyunwoo could answer, something changed in the chamber. The lights flickered. Every screen went dark. The air itself seemed to vibrate with an invisible energy. Several aliens looked around in confusion. Others appeared frightened, then it appeared. The entity had no clear shape. Sometimes it looked like pure light. Other times it seemed to be made of shadow. It existed in the center of the chamber, but also somehow everywhere at once. When it spoke, the voice came from inside everyone's mind rather than through their ears. Silence. Every being in the chamber froze. Even Prime Veltharan, who had led the council for 400 years, looked terrified. The entity's presence made everyone feel small and insignificant. You argue about humans as if they were simple creatures, the entity said. Its voice was ancient, tired, and disappointed. You debate their fate as if you had the right to judge them. You know nothing. Prime Veltharan found his courage. Who are you? By what authority do you interrupt this council? I am called the Witness, it replied. I have watched this galaxy for 3 billion years. I have seen civilizations rise from nothing and fall into dust. I have witnessed empires that spanned 1,000,000 worlds. I have watched species destroy themselves and others transcend into pure energy. I have seen everything that matters in this galaxy. The chamber remained silent. No one had ever heard of this being. No ancient records mentioned it. It was older than any known civilization. I come with a warning, the Witness continued. Do not provoke Earth. Do not threaten humanity. Do not make the mistake of treating them as your inferiors. The blue insect alien spoke up, her voice shaking. Why, they are weak. They are few. What can they possibly do to us? The Witness turned its attention to her. She immediately regretted speaking. Weak? You think they are weak because their ships are slower? Because their weapons are less advanced? You understand nothing about true strength? The entity's form shifted, showing images in the air. Earth appeared, spinning slowly. This planet has tried to kill humanity for millions of years. Ice ages that froze entire continents. Volcanic eruptions that darkened the skies. Diseases that killed millions. Predators that hunted them. Starvation, drought, earthquakes, floods. More images appeared. Humans huddled in caves, fighting off massive beasts. Humans crossing frozen wastelands. Humans building boats to sail across endless oceans. Humans climbing impossible mountains. Your species evolved on kind worlds, the witness said. Gentle planets with stable climates. Your ancestors never knew real hardship. But humans? Every generation of humans has faced death. They evolved in constant crisis. They learned to survive by being tougher than everything trying to kill them. The red reptilian spoke again, but his voice was less confident now. Survival is not the same as power. What threat could they possibly be to us? The witness laughed, and the sound sent chills through everyone present. That is exactly your mistake. You think power comes from advanced weapons or old civilizations. You think you're safe because you have more ships and bigger guns. The entity moved closer to the council members. Let me tell you what I have seen. I have watched what happens when humanity is pushed. I have seen timelines where you made them your enemies. In every single one of those futures you lost. Impossible, someone whispered. Is it? The witness asked. You evolved under gentle suns. You learned cooperation because survival was easy. Humans learned cooperation because it was the only way to live through another day. You avoid war because it is costly. Humans avoid war because they know how good they are at it. Prime Veltherin stood up. What exactly are you warning us about? The witness turned its full attention to the council leader. I am warning you that humanity is compressed potential. Every pressure you put on them makes them stronger. Every threat you make teaches them new ways to survive. Every battle you force them to fight makes them better warriors. You want to confine them to their solar system? They will use that time to prepare. You want to restrict their technology? They will find ways around it. You want to make them your slaves? They will burn your empire to ashes and dance in the flames. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the sound of breathing seemed too loud. The witness continued. This is not a warning for humanity's sake. They do not need my protection. This is a warning for you. In 3 billion years, I have seen only one other species like them. That species is gone now, ascended to a higher plane of existence. Before they left, they asked me to watch, to make sure that if another species like them appeared, they would not be destroyed by short-sighted fools. Humanity is not your enemy, but if you make them your enemy, you will regret it, not because they will destroy you quickly, but because they will never stop. They will fight for generations. They will sacrifice everything. They will adapt to every weapon you use, and in the end they will win, not through superior technology, but through sheer refusal to give up. The entity began to fade. I have given you my warning. What you do with it is your choice. But remember this. Every species that has underestimated humanity has learned the same lesson. Some learned it early and became friends. Others learned it too late and became extinct. Choose wisely, then the witness was gone. The lights came back on. The screens flickered to life. But everything had changed. The council members looked at each other with new understanding. The human stood quietly, waiting. Prime Veltherin sat down slowly. He looked at Ambassador Hyunwoo with different eyes now. Not with contempt, not with pity, but with something that might have been respect. Or perhaps fear. This session, he said quietly, is postponed. We need time to think about what we have heard. As the council members filed out, many of them looked at the human delegation with new interest. Some looked afraid. Others looked curious. But none of them laughed anymore. Commander Tae Yang leaned close to Hyunwoo and whispered, Did we know that thing was going to show up? Hyunwoo shook his head. No, but I'm glad it did. Dr. Jiwon looked up from her tablet. According to my readings, that entity was telling the truth. And that, she said quietly, might be the scariest part of all.